Rings of Power, Episode 2 of Series 2. And the power of Mordor is spreading. So our first thing that we see with this episode is we do actually see something quite good, I think. I think the interior shots we see of Khazad-dûm are actually quite good. Obviously, we've never seen them in their fullness before when they were at their height outside of the Rings of Power. And I think they actually do a fairly good job. It's good they actually had some stuff to build on from what Peter Jackson created in the Lord of the Rings films, particularly, it was only the Fellowship of the Ring, but the imagery that you get there, they've built upon, and I think they've done a fairly good job. That may be about the only good thing I can say about this episode, though. So we now have Disa coming to try and provide a way forward for the dwarves. They've lost the light that comes in to give them their crops because of the power of Mordor. The power of Mordor from Adar, it should be said, not Sauron. So Adar, this fallen elf who caused Mordor to come into existence with that stupid sword gimmicky thing. All of that has caused the light to stop coming in through the light shafts in Khazad-dûm. Okay, if we go with the idea that Mordor's power is reaching throughout the earth, okay, fair enough. It's caused a problem. Makes sense in that setting. And so Disa, of course, as our chief dwarven lady boss, has come to declare herself as the way to try and fix things by singing to try and find the way for the light to come back through. I have no idea how it was supposed to be done, because the idea of the singing to the rock was that you'd sing and you'd then know where to mine. But okay, fair enough. Maybe they thought that the singing could clear the mine shafts. Maybe her voice is that shrill. I can believe that. But, well, it doesn't work. Things just don't work. One interesting thing to note is that they seem to be making a more blatant kind of point towards the dwarven female facial hair. We can see from the old pictures from the last season that, yeah, there was a bit of facial hair, but it was very, very minuscule. Nothing like what it should have been. But now we see it far more prominently. I don't know whether this is because they actually took note or whether this is just a different angle. We'll have to wait and see. But if it is a case of taking note, they've not really done much about it. They've just made it slightly more prominent than it was previously. Okay, Galadriel back again, obsessing about her brother, and she obsesses about her brother more than her husband. I think whoever ends up turning the Rings of Power into a porn film in the future, odds on it will happen if it hasn't happened already. They're going to have a field day with that. Anyway, Galadriel then has this premonition, and she sees Celebrimbor first coming and saying that Sauron has come, and he's already at Eregion, but then also she has this premonition turn into where it's kind of similar to what is expected to be seen when Sauron eventually does kill Celebrimbor, because Celebrimbor's body is peppered with arrows from the orcs, and I don't think it's quite arrows, but certainly his body is skewered with many things. And while he's there, he's also quoting the One Ring to Rule Them All verse. Now, One Ring to Rule Them All only appears on the One Ring. The One Ring has not been created yet. Therefore, that verse cannot exist. There is no way she would be getting a premonition in relation to that. Premonitions don't work. It's not like it's a religious vision or anything like that. This doesn't happen in Middle-earth. And yet she's getting it. And then she comes back out of her vision, her premonition, and she declares to Gil-galad that she's going to kill Sauron. Yeah. We've already had the line given about how those that have been corrupted and their minds twisted by Sauron cannot defeat him. Therefore, there was the concern in relation to Galadriel having a ring and all sorts of things like that. And now she's saying she's going to kill him. Not only someone who's bent her mind towards his will, but someone who is so many levels above her in power. Yeah, that's going to happen. Lady Boss Central at Eregion. Gil-galad's aide, female, because females have to be everywhere now. She seems to be simping a bit for Sauron. She's wanting him to be able to get let in. She's wanting to make an argument for Celebrimbor to have a discussion with him. And we also find out that whilst Sauron, as Halbrand, is waiting to be able to be seen by Celebrimbor, he's also got people working for him, apparently, who have killed off messengers that have been sent from Lindon to tell Celebrimbor that Halbrand is Sauron. Now, unless Adar's spies who are following Halbrand have done the job, I've got no idea where this help is coming from. As far as we can tell at the moment, Sauron is on his Todd. It's just him. Nobody else is helping him, and yet he's got helpers who've managed to kill off the messengers. Make of that what you will. And now we're in the east, in Rhûn, and the writers made a potential legal slip-up here. I'm not sure if they're allowed to do this, but we have the appearance of the people who have been spying on Gandalf and Nori and Poppy. And apologies for the pause there. I had to struggle to remember what those wretched Harfoots are called. That's how little I care. Anyway, we've got this new big bad, this magical big bad, who it turns out is the boss of the magical bad guys who are after Gandalf in the previous series. And he's also got some human warriors serving him, and they make reference to halflings. Now, it may be that this isn't actually a legal slip-up. It may be that halflings, because they're used in other fantasy genre elements, that halfling is an acceptable phrase. However, hobbits were not allowed to be used. Hobbits are halflings. We see that referenced so many times over in Peter Jackson's films and in various other elements of Tolkien's writings, where people who've never heard of the word hobbit refer to them as halflings. I wonder whether that's a legal mistake. I wonder whether Amazon might get in trouble for this. Anyway, the guy who has called them a halfling, or called them halflings, I should say, he wants to go out and to kill Gandalf and the halflings. And this is something that the bad guy in charge of these magical headhunters, I suppose we could call them, allows him to do. Apparently there's some kind of appearance magic that's been used, or some kind of scarring they've got, which this new big bad guy is able to fix with his magic. And so he lets them go in exchange for saying he will cure them. Let's see how that works. Oh, Disa, would you just shut up? Now she's trying to fix the family diplomacy issues with her girl bossy ways. She's trying to tell Durin, her husband, how to deal with all the issues that are going on between him and King Durin. She's not got a single thing right so far. She thought she could fix the mine shafts that bring the light in. No, screwed that up. So many other things. I mean, the only thing she's managed to do right so far this episode is when the light goes out, there's a bit of a rumbling and there's stone falling out. She shouts, telling people to look out, that something's about to happen. Apart from that, she's got nothing right. And yet she thinks she can fix the situation between two very stubborn and arrogant male dwarves. I think we all know the reason why we never see female dwarves out in the sunlight. I think the men might be a little bit too embarrassed to take them anywhere. And now we have the issue of Elrond and the rings again. First he's talking with Galadriel, then he's talking with Círdan. And Elrond, the future wearer of one of the three rings of power, the elven rings, he bears one of them, and he declares anyone who wears a ring is a collaborator. Anyone who wears a ring is a collaborator. Okay, future collaborator. But then we also hear from Círdan, his view on things. And Círdan declares that it's better that we have them than Sauron. Well, if they're indestructible, then yes. However, you had agreed last episode with Elrond to destroy them, and then you changed your mind. But you believed it was possible to destroy them by throwing them into a trench in the sea. So, if it's a case of better us than him, yet if he kills you, he gets the ring, and therefore he has it, and will eventually get all three. Instead, you could destroy the rings, and therefore mean that nobody has them. Now, okay, that means that the world won't be healed because you don't have the rings that are holding the world together. But surely, if you want to make sure that Sauron never gets them, because that is the end of the world as you know it, guaranteed, you make sure he can't get access to them. Seems obvious to me. And another thing to note here, Círdan is noted as being one of the few, if not the only, elves who has facial hair. He has a beard. We had a beard at the start of seeing Círdan in the first episode, and then for some reason, since the end of the first episode and this first time of seeing him in the second, he's now clean shaven. Now, is it going to be a bit of a mistake? They simply forgot? I would hope that the actor would have noted that they didn't have facial hair on him when he was recording that bit and said, hang on, aren't you missing something? Maybe it was something they were planning on adding in by CGI and they just forgot. Either way, this is shocking continuity if they're planning on having facial hair back, and it's shocking attention to the lore if they're not. This is an easy one. You've started him with facial hair, carry on with facial hair. But no, they've decided they're going to shave him for whatever reason. No idea why. So Gandalf and Nori and Poppy have decided to take a different route because they know they're being watched, that they're being hunted, and so they've gone away where they'd originally said they didn't want to go because it didn't look like they'd be able to get anywhere close to where they couldn't see over the space of a few days, and they didn't have enough food for it. So they then decided, because they wanted to go off the path that they were clearly being tracked on, to go that way. And somehow on that route, where Nori and Poppy are being dragged on some kind of stretcher, I guess, by Gandalf, he gets them to the point where they can see a well. And he then collapses, and they then give him water, and he revives. And eventually, we get, because of a bell ringing, because Poppy, I think it was Poppy, it was either Poppy or Nori, I think it was Poppy, got the water from the well. The mechanism for the rope going down continually knocked a bell, which, rather than bothering to stop it, she let just carry on going as she went for the water. And after all of that, the guys who've been sent to kill them appear and they attack. And Gandalf has found a stick and he thinks he can use it. And the stick disintegrates and he loses control of his magic. That's not how the magic of the Maiar works. This whole portrayal of Gandalf as I'm learning how to be a wizard is being done is completely against how the Maiar work. The Maiar turn up as old men. They turn up and they are immediately in their power. They are able to use their power, no problems at all. They all come, as far as we can tell, there's never any statement about them having to gain their staffs. So, in theory, they all come with their staffs. If the staff is the thing that's focusing the magic, that's something they have right from the very start. But, okay, we've got a Maiar who can't control his magic. Okay. And because of that, he loses control of the sandstorm/whirlwind that he creates. And with it, Poppy and Nori flying off. Let's see what happens afterwards. Sauron is patient. I mean, we know this from the fact that he waits in the actual lore, in Tolkien's writings, he waits for opportune moments to strike. He's willing to go into imprisonment on Númenor to twist Pharazôn to eventually attack Valinor. So this is possibly one of the most lore-friendly things that we see, with Sauron as Halbrand waiting at Eregion, saying he wants to talk to Celebrimbor, and he waits and he waits and he waits and he waits. And Celebrimbor finally gives in. He finally feels sorry for Halbrand just waiting there. And he feels even more sorry for him when it starts raining, and he eventually invites him in. And at first, Halbrand makes a plea for, give me rings of power like you've given the elves, so that we can save the South, save his people. And then the guy who has already pretended to be the king of the the Southlands, now declares that he is a messenger from the Valar. And this is where he declares that he is Anatar. Now, if we hadn't had him already appear as Halbrand, I could almost, in fact, no, I probably could accept this as being a way that they portrayed the whole idea of Anatar coming, of why would the most gifted creator of the elves in the Second Age, potentially the most gifted creator other than Fëanor, his grandfather, why would he allow some random elf to come and help him out with the rings? Unless he suggests that he is something more than a mere elf. Okay, that would be an acceptable portrayal, I think, even if there is absolutely no lore basis for it. But Anatar has already been portraying himself as Halbrand, the human. And so now we've got this guy who's failed in his attempt to twist things to his own will, telling Celebrimbor that not only was he pretending to be Halbrand, but that he is also this Anatar, giver of gifts, lord of gifts, whatever. That means that if Galadriel comes to Eregion and says Halbrand is a bad guy, Halbrand is Sauron, Celebrimbor knows that Anatar is Halbrand and therefore is Sauron. And we know, or we will know soon, that Galadriel is going to be sending people to Eregion. Well, Gil-galad will be sending, and she'll be going there. So this seems like possibly a stupid way to bring Anatar into it, because Anatar, there was no knowledge of who he was at all, other than he was the giver of gifts or lord of gifts. But anyway, we've finally got Anatar. And then our final two scenes. The first, we see Elrond is now positioned as being in charge of Galadriel. To steal a phrase from another appalling TV show, he's positioned to take credit for a woman's work. And Galadriel does not seem happy. So it's under Elrond that Galadriel will be taking soldiers to Eregion. Elrond will be the one who is in control of this party, this force of soldiers going there. We've no idea why Elrond would be in charge, because in terms of the Rings of Power, Elrond has never been shown to be anything other than a diplomat who has a liking for jumping off waterfalls and has friendship with the dwarves. Beyond that, there is nothing about him we know. There is no battle element to him. There is nothing that suggests that he has ever fought before. So why he's put in power over the army at this point, I don't know. I mean, we've already seen that there are other girl boss generals that they could have used, but no, Elrond's the one to go. He's going to be in charge. My guess is Elrond's going to be shown up, that he's going to be shown to get things wrong, and Galadriel's then going to go in, she's going to take over, and he'll be embarrassed by it. But anyway, that's the last we see of them, and the final bit that we see is what should have been happening right at the start to begin with. Celebrimbor gets in contact with Durin, says, "Can you help?" I mean, okay, interesting that he's contacted the Sun, Durin the Sun, rather than Durin King, but anyway, there we are. And so now what we have is things looking like they might start to get slightly more action-packed. I mean, it's nowhere near as action-packed as they suggested it would be from the start. But yes, whatever storyline that they've got, and the storyline is shocking, but whatever storyline they've got, that's now actually moving forwards fairly well. So, credit where credit is due, I guess. Not that there's much. Next episode,